Hey everybody, I'm so happy to introduce my friend Matt Blois here with us for the speaker series. With previous videos that you guys are going to see, the speaker series is about sharing experiences, hoping to encourage you guys to chase your dreams, thinking outside the box to help you guys accomplish things that you may otherwise would not have tried to go for. So Matt's story is a little bit interesting, where he was traditionally a golf professional to start out right after school. Quit that, became a digital marketing, created a digital marketing agency, and now he's actually employed or contracted by various golf professionals to help them grow their brands. So I'll let Matt introduce himself a little bit, and then we can ask some questions and share some thoughts.
So I went to school initially for like general business, went to university. Around that time, just coincidentally, I actually started getting into golf like more seriously, sort of end of high school kind of thing. So what kind of occurred is I got a summer job while I was in university at a golf course. Started spending a lot of time with the teaching pros and the head pro, and just, I guess, developing a liking for the industry and an interest in being in it. So I ended up switching universities entirely. Ended up going to Humber College basically for their golf program specifically. And I finished that, and while I was going through the program, I was an assistant pro after getting my card. And then I ended up being an associate pro for about a year and a half. And then at that point, because the facility I was at, it's unique in that they also are affiliated with a private health club and tennis facility. They didn't have a marketing person at all. So the structure of that company was such that my boss was pretty, I guess, flexible in letting me kind of cut my teeth, get some experience working on, because they didn't have anyone at all. So I would get the opportunity to do a lot of stuff in marketing, building websites and stuff that most people wouldn't get the practical application of that quickly. So I did that for them directly for about 1 or 2 years, and sort of towards the end of that, I started doing a little bit of work on the side just from people that I met through my network and through the golf course, and kind of gave me an interest in starting a business.
So they approached you saying, "Hey,
yeah,
Matt,
like I did
get some help."
Exactly, like just because I guess I would have been doing some video work starting as a hobby. I had a friend who was involved in film and television. So initially it was more of just something for fun, but I kind of developed an interest in it. So I started gaining some kind of side work in the video production space, doing a little bit of web development on the side of my actual full-time job. So once I decided that I really wanted to start a business and do it, I had a chat with my boss and basically just asked if they would be interested in changing our relationship to being more of a contract one. I was lucky that it was a good fit for both of us.
So where they really become like a full-time client of yours, and you don't really work for them anymore?
Not directly, not at a desk. I'm looking after most of the same things that I used to, and really some additional services and marketing, but I was no longer an in-house associate pro / marketing guy, right? So that's basically the kind of in a nutshell of how I got into golf, kind of developed, I guess, my career path a bit within golf, and then technically speaking, I've gotten out of golf, but through starting my company, probably about a third of my clients are in the golf industry.
Gotcha, that's cool.
Part of that is because of where I started and my connections, but part of it is just the golf is just, I mean, there's no better way to meet like network in business that I found than golf. And because I used to be a pro, I think a lot of companies that are in golf kind of trust that I understand the game.
For sure.
So
just a different language altogether. It's hard
it kind of is, yeah. I think it exists in all industries. Like if you go to an ad agency that deals with, this wouldn't happen due to conflicts, but let's say they had dealt with Ford or they dealt with Chevrolet, and you're Mercedes-Benz, you have the comfort that they understand the car industry, so you'll sort of gravitate towards that sort of thing. So I've kind of had that experience with golf. But the thing with golf is you play, one day you might play with someone who's an engineer, you might play with someone who's a CEO, you might play with someone who's a contractor. The businesses and types of industries and careers that people have in playing golf, you can play with anyone. So that's sort of what's gotten me in a nutshell to where I am right now.
Really, just playing golf with random people, just meeting them for the first time.
Yeah, or referrals. I mean, I shouldn't say it's all from golf. I just wanted to say that golf is a good place to meet people in general.
Definitely.
But yeah, my business kind of roster of portfolio of clients is entirely referrals. Like people always ask me, do you advertise? I've had, I shouldn't say entirely, I probably have 2 current clients that found me what I would say organically.
Through Google or?
but even then, I would assume that someone in their network somehow kind of connected them. Maybe they saw it on LinkedIn or something.
Gotcha. Drop your names.
But that's exactly. That's as close to like a cold client as I've ever had. So it's mostly referral business because it's just been me, right?
Right.
So going forward, that will change, obviously. But yeah, it's the power of referrals has been very healthy for me. Yeah.
Of course. So like going back to you going to university first before going to Humber College, which year was it before you decided to, okay, like this isn't for me, let me go to Humber College, let me do PGM?
Yeah, I was in my second year.
Right.
I changed majors after my first year, but I stayed in university. I changed majors towards something hospitality focused, because at the time I was into restaurants and hotels and stuff. I thought that would be a career path for me. It's a good learning experience. I think through ironically through a lot of guest speakers that we had. I don't think at the time when I got into the program realized kind of how your day-to-day work schedule is in hospitality. It's tough, right?
Right.
So I, at the same time I was realizing that might not be for me, I was really getting into golf.
Right.
So that's when I looked around at my options and thought, okay, what's the career path for someone that either wants to teach golf or probably be a manager? Would have more likely been my path. I did teach golf, but I was I think I was always more of a general manager type person in terms of where I would have wanted to end up.
Right.
So yeah, it was my second year of university. I could have easily just finished that degree as well, but it's I think for me anyway, it was tough to go to school when I didn't have a lot of interest in what I was doing.
You knew that was pretty much wasn't going to give you as much value back once you finish.
Hard to say. Yeah, hard to say. And I think the more people around our age that finish university, a lot of them say the same thing.
Of course.
It's good that they finish, but once you finished, I think it's still tough to know exactly what you want to do until you get into the workforce. The pressure that you feel you feel pressure in high school to know what you want to do because of university. And then when you're in university, you feel pressure to have your career ready when you leave.
Right.
The reality is, I don't think most people will have any idea what they want to do until they've actually started working.
Gotcha. I really like, just knowing you personally and playing golf quite a little bit. I really like just how you went into golf, got out of golf, and then kind of got back into golf and directly working in a different sense, right? So I think, let's say for the PGM students out there or people who want to be a golf professional, we know how tough it is to be a golf professional working 50, 60 hours a week for not very lucrative pay, especially when you first start out.
For sure.
So what made you kind of grind through those first few years and then you decide this really isn't for you anymore? How would they know for themselves that, okay, this may not be for me, or this may not be the best chance of me finding success, just because there's so little head pro jobs that pay fairly decent, and there's so many assistants out there grinding it out, right?
It's a narrow opportunity for sure. I think it depends on what kind of a person you are, how ambitious you are, what satisfies you at work. For me, I tend to be a little bit impatient, and I tend to be overly ambitious at times, depending on who you ask. But I think for some people, there's qualities of that industry and that job that are perfect for them. They may like how the hours are. They may like having 2 months off in the winter. They may like that stuff. It wasn't for me. I didn't love the hours.
Gotcha. Just give them an idea.
Yeah, like certain things that the hours are tough. Like you're either up super early and then you're done kind of midday.
Like 5 a.m., 4 a.m.
Yeah, and then you're done at 2 or something, and then what do you do? Right. Usually go home and go to bed kind of thing. Or you start later and then you finish quite late. Sometimes you finish at 10 or 11 o'clock. So again, for some people, they like that. They like not working 9 to 5. And I thought I was that type of person until I did it. And then I had friends with 9 to 5s, and I was like, man, I really wish I just worked 9 to 5.
Right. You can't hang out with them after.
Yeah, it's tough to manage your social. I mean, it sounds like such a stupid thing, but it makes a difference, right?
For sure.
Not saying you need to have a 9 to 5 job, but it's I would say it's underrated having regular hours.
Right. I guess it really depends on what your circle, like what your close friend circle has.
Yeah, if you work, let's say everyone you hang out with, your friends, family, whatever, they're all kind of entrepreneurial people or whatever the case may be, or maybe they're all shift type workers and they all have a similar schedule and you live that lifestyle, you probably won't find it conflicting with your life much. But for me, it was, like people do stuff on weekends. I can't, I'm working. People do stuff late at night. No, I'm up at 4 tomorrow. Like it's stuff like that that may get to you on a personal level. I won't say that's why I got out of the industry, but there's going to be, again, stuff you don't really think about or stuff that you brush off, like, oh, no, I'll be fine with that. I just want to get into golf. Like, I'm okay with the early mornings. Until you've actually done it,
Right.
You don't really know.
Right.
So that's why I would never discourage anyone from trying any job. Any job, any industry you think you might want to get into, you like give it a shot.
For sure. What do you have to lose, right?
You don't really have much to lose. I mean, unless you have, financial commitments. But if you're okay to switch jobs a couple times, then it's kind of like what they say about meeting new people. You don't really know someone until, a few months in, kind of thing. You may have an idea of how a person's personality is, but the longer you spend with someone, the more you get to know their personality. I think work is exactly the same.
Was there like a moment, like a specific moment that really made you think, okay, like this might be it, like I really should change what I do?
I think for me, it was more, I was kind of more falling in love with the idea of starting a business.
Gotcha.
So I think my mind became consumed with that on a daily basis.
Right, it just took over you more and more and more.
The more I thought about it, the more I, saw that as a more desirable path, the less happy I was with what I had.
Gotcha.
Because my working situation was quite good. Like, as I said, my boss was really good to me. That job was by all accounts quite good. I wasn't very old when I had it. I was probably like 23, something like that.
Right. Well, would it be fair for me to say the spot you were in might have been a little uncommon for as a traditional golf
professional?
professional?
because it doesn't was a public course, first of all, and generally speaking, that position didn't exist at this golf course. So I was able to sort of have a good relationship with the general manager, and we just kind of created a job essentially.
Right.
So I was lucky to have it. It was never a question of not liking it. I think I saw an opportunity that I liked more.
Of course.
But that being said, if you can find, and that I should say, that job regulated my hours quite a bit. So I think lifestyle-wise, things improved, but it wasn't to a point where I wasn't feeling motivated enough by what's the future of it.
Right, that the ceiling wasn't quite as high as what you saw for yourself if you started something on your own.
Yeah, because the ceiling then is, okay, like I might eventually become a general manager somewhere. Is that enough for me? Is that what I really want to be doing? Is that, it's corny, but it's like, is that sort of your dream position, right?
Of course.
The problem with that is if you had asked me when I left, what I wanted to achieve, I probably got there like 2 years ago in terms of my business, but I'm not, you know how it is. You're never satisfied, right?
Right. So leaving Richmond Hill, you achieved what you wanted 2 years ago.
At least,
but obviously now,
probably more like 3. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But as you grow and grow and grow, obviously
You reassess,
goals
right?
change. You want to do better and
I think
better.
that's probably what it is. The most basic thing is your goals. Just you reassess. And once you get to something, you kind of assume, okay, once I'm at that level, I'll be whatever it is. I'm financially stable, or I've got the hours I want, or I've got the clients I want, or I'm doing the work I want. There's always something going on that you probably won't like. Doesn't matter what the job is. And I've been able to be pretty selective about what I do for work, which most people can't. So I'm lucky that way. But even then, you still have to put up with some percentage of your day that's not your favorite. But it's there's a bit of a battle always, and I think it depends. If you're not that ambitious, and that's nothing wrong with that, I think you may find yourself more at peace when you achieve something. Whereas I kind of get to something and I immediately think of what is after that.
Of course.
So it's good to be ambitious in terms of being successful, but it also makes it a little harder to enjoy it.
Right.
And you've probably felt that way yourself, right? You get to sort of a milestone, whatever it is. You want to have a certain revenue for your business. You get there.
For sure.
And then you feel like, you look at another business and think, oh, I kind of want to get myself to that level. So, it's been a very non-traditional path for me.
Yeah.
I probably put my parents through quite a bit of stress just because, education is expensive. It takes a long time, and it's when you've changed your mind a few times, the people around you, it's easier for them to see. They're not making an emotional decision about it. They can sort of see what's kind of ahead of you. But that being said, I don't have any regrets because I don't see another way I would have arrived here had I have done, who knows, if I had finished university and gone and gotten a post-secondary or a post-graduate degree or something. I don't know that I would be where I am now, or maybe I would be, but not till later. So I think my message for someone would be, don't go through school thinking after 4 years work starts and that's your career.
Right.
Because if I can think off the top of my head 20, 30 people I know around my age that I know well, I would say I maybe know 1 or 2 people that do what they went to school for.
Still.
It's almost no one.
Yeah,
like my brother went to school for architecture. He's an architect. He's been successful in that. It's been great for him, and he's liked it the whole way, as far as I know. But pretty much no one else I know, with the exception of one friend who's a lawyer. That's about it. Everyone else has, let's say they went to school for marketing. they're not into marketing now, or they went to school for accounting or public relations or whatever, or politics or something like that. You went to school for journalism.
Yeah.
Now you're teaching golf.
At least I'm interviewing you, though.
I know you are a journalist.
My
right
teachers
now.
would be proud of that.
But that's a perfect example. It's still a transferable skill. You learn things during your time there. You met people. You developed your personality. You learned about everything. You learned about the workforce, everything, right? So that would be my advice for someone. Having put myself kind of through the pressure, thinking that I was screwing up by not being kind of on a straight path.
Did you think that?
You feel that way at times, I think, because I don't know. You just feel guilty that you're spending so much time and money at school, and you're not really sure what the outcome of it is. But that's, I think, where society points people. It's not really your fault. You're being pressured to figure it out in 4 years.
Right.
You're not going to figure it out in 4 years. You may, but you'll be 1%.
For sure. Think. How did your parents react when you switched majors and then switched schools and
so
then switched jobs?
My parents are very supportive. I would never say anything about that. They are very, very supportive. They were probably cautiously concerned and gave me advice to just be balanced, I guess. It's when you're 18, 19 years old and you call and you're like, Mom, I'm switching majors. Like, I made that decision in 2 seconds. Like, that's not how someone who's had a life.
Did you always think about it a couple of weeks in advance, or did you think about it?
I've been thinking about it. But what I'm saying is, without your parents' kind of guidance, it doesn't have to be a parent. It could be a friend or whoever.
Someone that you trust.
Yeah, they'll have the sort of the more calm approach where they can say, okay, like I hear you, but here's maybe some things you should think about. So yeah, they were always supportive, but they were just advising me about what I might consider instead. I think a lot of people will run into a situation where they have to butt up against parents or stuff like that. Luckily for me, that wasn't the case.
Sounds like you were in a great spot.
Yeah, like my parents were I think gave me, and ironically, some of the advice you remember when you're older, you think I've done that now, but I didn't do it at the time, kind of thing.
Like what?
So my dad once told me, he said, when I wanted to get into golf, he said something like, you could be involved with golf, but like not as your full-time career. We had a conversation something like that. Don't ask me exactly what he said. And ironically, that's pretty much exactly what I'm doing. So I'm not saying he's a fortune teller, but it's sometimes stuff like that comes back around. I'm not going to say that everyone's going to get good advice. I'm not going to say that you're going to take. I mean, I didn't even take the advice at the time, right?
Right.
But yeah, you have to. In the end, it's you have to be the one that goes to school. You have to go. You're the one that has to do it. So
it's your life at the end of the day.
It's your life at the end of the day. So if you're not as lucky as me and your parents give you a hard time, or friends give you a hard time, whatever the situation is, it's in the end it's you that has to live that life. But if you respect their opinion, you can still listen.
Interesting.
But you can still do whatever you want.
Do you know any friends or people who start their own businesses who might have butted heads with their parents at the time, or?
That's a good question. Probably not to the severity that I think some people deal with.
Gotcha.
Now, I would say that includes my personal network. I've certainly heard stories of others.
Of course, yeah, I've heard stories too, but no one in your...
My immediate network, I think generationally, our age group, not all of our parents went to university. A lot did, but not all of them. Whereas our generation, pretty much everyone goes to university. And I think that's a factor of your parents wanting you to do better than they did or have more opportunity.
Gotcha.
So the byproduct of that can be good. I mean, I don't think there's ever a bad reason to get an education. It's not going to hurt you, but it may not always be your best path to it. But if you, for example, I have a couple friends I play hockey with. One of them has a really successful contracting business. His parents might have wanted him to go to university.
But he never did.
I don't think so, no. So, or certainly didn't stay, right? So that's a completely different path than maybe would have been set out for him. But in the end, you have to look, first of all, what you enjoy doing. Where's their demand? There's not a ton of demand for, we know, like certain, especially here in Canada, like if you want to be a teacher, you're having a tough time. Certain, like lawyers, very competitive. So if you're doing it for the reason that you think it's a good career, you may not want to follow that path, because imagine not really wanting to be a lawyer and then competing for like one job with hundreds of people. It's tough. So
yeah, I got friends out of teacher school, teachers college, 3 years, 4 years later, still trying to get into this system.
So competitive, right? I think you just need to be open-minded. I think I remember when I was in high school, there was like information about you don't have to go to university, consider college or consider a trade. And I think at the time everyone was sort of like, it's not not a negative, but you almost think of like, oh, is that what you do if you can't get into university?
I see.
And that's not a kid's fault. Like, you know, when we all thought that, we were like 15 years old.
Right.
You don't know what you're talking about, but that's the perception it has.
How long ago was that? How long ago?
That would
were
have
you
been like in
school?
high school when we had, how long ago was I
Yeah.
in high school? So I'm 29. So that would have been about, 13 years ago,
Gotcha.
something like that. So I'm sure that's not when it first began, but anyone who knows, the climate of the workforce knows that there's more demand for trade jobs and stuff like that than there used to be, because now people are getting more education for whatever reason. Could be your parents, could be just, the way things are going. But the more open-minded you can be, I think it will be a lot easier for you to find a career. If you think I need to go to university for whatever, a science, you're actually really limited.
Right, of course.
But if you finish that degree, you get out into the workforce, you could end up doing anything. Like my girlfriend has a sociology degree. She's loves what she does. She's in sales for a high-end furniture distributor. She's loves it. It's not at all what she went to school for, like not even close.
But she loves it now.
Yeah, she likes the people she works with. It's a cool industry. She has an interest in interior design, so it worked out great. But there's no way in the world that she would have ended up there if she had have tried to get there, which is a weird, I don't even know if that's the right way to put it. But if she had have thought that's what I want to do, I think she would have actually taken a different path through school. Her first 2 jobs would have been different. Right. Her experience would have been different, and I don't think she would have ended up in that job.
I see.
So,
what was like the biggest challenge for you, growing it to this point right now?
Biggest challenge is managing my time, I would say.
Yeah. How long has it been since you, let's say, day one of you starting this business? How long has it been?
2015 or 16.
3, 4 years, three and a half.
5 years.
5 years.
The first year was like, let's say the first 6 months, I'll call it part-time.
Sure.
But yeah, once I had quit my job and started full-time, it's been, let's say, about 5 years.
Sure.
So when I first started, I guess the stress was more, I need to get more clients, I need to grow this, I need to make a better living, all the kind of things you kind of get trapped in.
Right.
So that used to be my stress. Now, ironically, it's the opposite stress. Now I'm worried about having too much work, compromising your lifestyle for work. Right. How much time do I want to spend working versus how much do I spend with friends and family, stuff like that. So there's always challenges. Like at the time, I would have been happy to be too busy.
Right.
Now, when I think about it, I would have probably been happy to be less busy, just because you have to decide how much you want to work.
Of course.
I think there's if you spend any time on Instagram or YouTube, all you see is you need to work 100 hours a week, you need to do this. Like it's just, I think the younger generation is completely overwhelmed with being told that their entire life should be work. So they have no balance in life whatsoever.
What's your happy spot, do you think? Or is that still changing?
So I would, and people ask me this all the time, I think I would have a hard time telling you how many hours a week I work. I really would.
Right.
I would probably have to sit and put a timer on every time I do something work-related to tell you what it is.
Whether it's email or just checking up on something.
Because what I do is so varied. Like one day I might spend 6 hours working on someone's brand new website design. Another day I may just be doing kind of cleanup emails, helping clients with little stuff here and there. I may only work a few hours directly at my computer.
Right.
Some of it may be a couple phone calls, couple emails. So it's a very sort of flexible day, which is why I like it.
Right.
So I think sometimes I probably work like 60 hours a week. There could be times I work half that. I'm not really sure what it is. Personally, I work fast. Like I get things done faster than most people. So I think I can get away with probably a little bit less time load than others. Also, if you work in an office, people who pay you just want you to be there.
Right.
So there's this whole culture of so-and-so is here. I come in the morning, she's already here. I leave at night, she's still here. Like that's considered good.
For sure.
If I was hiring someone, I would rather someone that could get it done faster with the same quality and just be honest, like, I have nothing to do. Send me home.
And just get out of here. Right.
The problem is that our generation can think that way. I think that with some exceptions, older generations are more of the mind that I worked crazy hours, you should also work crazy hours because you're a junior to me. You're working more so I can work less, and as I move up, and so on.
Right.
So the problem is I think people are getting in entry-level jobs, they're being told by bosses, and that's the culture. Then they go on the internet and watch, the usual suspect kind of YouTube guys, and they're all being told, like, I work constantly, I'm never not working, I'm not having fun unless I'm working. It's just like, what are you talking about? Like, it's poisonous, I think.
For sure, of course.
I think there's people that could be happy working all the time, but you should be scared about tying your identity to one thing. Right. Like, if your entire life is work, work goes wrong, you're miserable. And I've
Right.
done that myself. Like I've had times where all I can think about is what I'm working on, what project am I working on. You say you put something out, client comes back and is like, I don't like this. Like now you are depressed because
Right.
my entire identity is my work. If my work isn't good, then I'm not good, right?
Right.
Golf is the same. People put so much time, I'm sure you've been through it. Like I'm a golfer or I'm a competitive golfer and I shot 85 today. Like now you feel like nothing because your entire life is golf.
Right.
I think people do that with work more than they realize.
Right.
And they're pressured in so many different ways. So I
So
mean,
how have you been able to separate that idea?
I've been, I mean, my situation is unique. Let's be honest; it's not the same for everyone,
Of
unless
course.
you're an entrepreneur. So I've been either telling new clients that I'm not available right now, or I've been, for lack of a better word, refusing some work to manage my schedule.
Of course.
And more importantly, I don't want to dilute the quality of my work for others, so I don't want to be overstressing my time. That's also part of it, but you may argue more importantly, you need to manage your own personal life. Like you need to be happy and healthy and satisfied to do good work. If you're stressed out and you're working way too much, I don't see how you can create work. You're just going to hang on basically enough to get by.
Right.
So hopefully, as I think in the next 20, 30 years, hopefully as we become the people who are senior in companies, the culture of work constantly or you're no good
Right.
starts to go away. Should be more work smart, be efficient, and go home and enjoy your life at 4:30 or 5 o'clock. Don't work from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. and then post it on Instagram, look how cool I am. I didn't go home today. Like I hate that stuff.
For sure.
I really hate that stuff. Yeah.
It's not fun.
I don't think it's good for anyone, but it's contagious.
Right.
You see, so then if you're an entrepreneur and you don't talk about how much you work, everyone's like, oh, well, you're not really trying hard enough.
Right.
Even
it's funny you say that because it's funny because at least in my personal experience, I feel like a lot of fresh entrepreneurs are always posting about, oh, working this, but the more experienced or people who have actually already gone to a certain point they just
that.
lay low. They don't say, oh, up at 4 a.m. doing this, doing that, right?
And you're exactly right. I think part of it is this is what I think I should be doing because that's what I've seen. Mm-hmm. And then the other part of it is I'm doing this, I'm miserable. If I don't get some recognition for this, I don't know why I'm doing this.
For sure.
So they're posting it to just be like, is this right? Validate what I'm doing kind of thing.
For sure.
But even at the highest levels, watch Shark Tank, watch Dragon's Den, watch those shows. All of those top entrepreneurs, they get upset if those candidates, the people who come in, aren't working crazy hours. They're like, oh, you don't work 24/7. Oh, you have a job also. How come you haven't quit your job? How come you're not working more? So it's it can be toxic even at the highest levels.
Right.
That's the problem.
You just really have so much conviction in yourself and what you're doing.
You have to, I think. You have to be wise enough to know that if you really need to work 150 hours a week for years, something's wrong.
For sure.
You have done something wrong.
For sure.
You haven't gotten into a business that allows you to generate enough revenue to hire staff to balance your workload.
Sure.
It's as simple as that.
I guess in your personal opinion, how many years it may be too many where if you're still working tons and you're not really seeing the growth or the need to hire to not work so much, what's that year for you?
Probably depends on the industry.
Right.
For me, I can't imagine living like that for more than a year.
Gotcha.
Really can, because for me, my fall and really the last 4 months have been too busy, and I can tell when it starts to take a toll on me, and that's 3-4 months.
Gotcha.
And I can already feel, and I've made steps in the last few weeks working on sourcing an employee as well, which will help. But you have to be aware of when you're starting to get to your limit.
Right.
Because by the time you've gotten there, it's way too late.
Gotcha.
You're already at a point where oh no, now I'm screwed, and you have no options.
Right. How do you feel okay, this is coming on you now? What are the signs that you've seen for yourself that you may be starting to overstress yourself?
I look at easy things for me are if I start work, I work from home mostly. So let's say I get up, take the dog for a walk, and I'm at my desk sometimes 7:30, 8 o'clock because I don't have a commute obviously, so I can start earlier. If I get to 3:30, 4 o'clock, and I feel like I have a million things to do, and they need to wait till tomorrow so I don't work all night, those are warning signs for me. Okay, something's not right here.
Right.
And if I can justify it by saying, okay, well, you have a new project this week, that's why you're busier. I've started to notice, that's not because of a new project. It's just because all these people need something right now, and I need to deliver it to them properly and in a timely way, and I'm having trouble managing that without working early to late.
Right.
If you wake up early, start work, and you feel like you're working past dinner, something's probably a little bit off.
For sure.
So you can, and you can definitely, and you need to have the stomach to put up with it for a while, but you have gone through the same thing. There's a certain point, especially if you're an entrepreneur, if you have to work that much and you're not making enough money to either dial back that so you work less with less clients, or you hire someone to take on your workload, there's probably something wrong with your pricing structure. There's probably something wrong with some aspect of your business. Like for you, if you have your rates too low, you're going to teach 12 hours of lessons a day to make a living 6 days a week, right? So it's supply and demand, basically. I think if you're doing really well, I'm not saying, working hard isn't going to help you do well, but there's a point where I think people they're so caught up in it that they think that's what they should be doing.
Of course.
They forget to call mom and dad, and they forget to go out with friends on the weekend. Oh, I'm working. Like, you have to, at any age, you have to be aware of that. Because when you're older, I mean, I don't think everyone's conscious of it, but I can picture when I'm older thinking to myself, okay, like there was a couple years in your 20s that you really should have stepped back and gone, like, you're wasting a lot of your time on work. You need to chill and do some other stuff. So the earlier you can recognize that, I think the happier you'll be.
For sure. I think that's a totally good point. I think, at least for me personally, I'm thinking, okay, like you're in your 20s, you're in your 30s, it's almost like the prime of your life. Yeah. It's how much do you want to spend that prime of your life working your ass off, almost too much, as opposed to maybe enjoying it a little bit, like finding that balance. I think definitely what you said is super valid.
There's a lot of things that I think will give you excitement and fulfillment at this age in work. But then that ends and it just becomes more work.
Right.
And then you miss out on, like, oh, your friend's getting married in Jamaica. I can't go. I can't leave for a week. You're going out for drinks with these guys you used to go to school with. I can't go because I'm working. So you'll just start to miss stuff that won't recur. Right. There's a lot of stuff that you can recapture later. You can catch up with certain things, but certain things you'll just have missed.
Of course.
And then you'll look back and go, did I really need to work 100 hours that week? Not really. Like, I probably could have figured out some way to strategize that better.
Is there anything that you're looking back, you're like, oh shit, I wish I had made time for that you felt like maybe you missed something?
I would say for me, I felt over the last probably year and a half that I've just missed. I haven't spent nearly as much time with friends and family as I wouldn't pick. Like, there's nothing big. It's not like I've missed like someone's wedding or something. So it sounds
like you've managed it pretty well for the most part. Yeah.
But I'm conscious of it where I'm like, you'll see. Like, you'll catch up with someone you haven't seen in a while, and you'll hang out with them and be like it's ridiculous that I haven't seen this person in a year. Like, I have a couple friends who I haven't seen in like 6 or 7 months. It's not just me, it's also they're busy.
Of course.
But what you'll find is the older you get, the less you can count on friends to be free. And if you don't make the effort, you can't assume someone else will. So you end up not seeing people as much. Not because you don't want to, just because it just becomes like, I have to, if I go out with this person, then I have to work tomorrow. And I think you build up in your mind that you can't handle it. The problem is you're making more room for work. You're not making more room for life. I'll always say, Larry, I can't come to dinner because I have to work.
Right.
I won't say, I can't work. I have to go to dinner with Larry.
Right.
That's the difference.
For sure.
Like, no one does that, and you really at times you should.
So, for sure.
Like, look at the consequences. Look at what's real. Say, okay, if I don't spend an extra 3 hours working today, am I doing it because that's what I think I have to do, or am I actually being productive? Am I working smart? Am I getting towards a goal that I'm trying to achieve?
So what is that goal like?
For me, it's all, I think I realized pretty early, and part of the reason I started a business is I think it's all lifestyle. So I get a lot of fulfillment from my work, but I don't work entirely for like my enjoyment of life. I partially chose what I do because it gives me the flexibility and ability to do the things I want to do. I can go golfing during the week at times. I can take vacations at times. I can do the things that I enjoy in life because of my job. I also enjoy what I do, but it's not, there's also people that just entirely go to work and, it's over. Like, I got that over with. Now I can get back to my regular. Right. I thought, that's not ideal. But I think even that's more healthy than someone who literally doesn't know where work and life is separated.
Right. Where that line is, when does it end?
Yeah. So you get caught up in what's my dream job.
Right.
I don't know that there is one for anyone, because again, like you would have asked me 5 years ago what I wanted to be doing, I would have far surpassed it 2 years ago.
Right.
But if you ask me honestly, I'm probably not entirely satisfied,
Right.
which is insane when you think about it.
So where do you see yourself now in the next 10 years? Like, what's the ultimate goal, I guess, 10 years from now?
I would like to have, I probably like to have a staff of about 4 or 5, and a small office/studio. That's plenty for me, because I know enough about the step after that in terms of agencies to know that it's not where I want to be.
Right. It's not worth your time and energy to potentially make it to that next. To
it
that
becomes
step,
a situation where you don't control your lifestyle anymore.
I see.
That's what I've seen. So if that's important to you, you have to watch what level, like what amount of money is worth it for you to lose control of your lifestyle.
Of course.
Basically,
Of
I'm not
course.
saying you lose control of your life, but you do stop being able to decide your lifestyle. So if your lifestyle is, I want to play golf, or I want to play hockey with my friends twice a week, I want to go on vacation twice a year, whatever it is,
Right.
you still have to cater your goals towards achieving that. Because if it's all just position and money, you'll end up with that position and money, but absolutely no time.
Right. To spend
anything.
that money.
So you have like a bunch of money in the bank, and you're CEO of this, or you're whatever your title is.
Right.
But you really don't have anything, I guess, life-wise that you can really enjoy, because you've spent all your time on that.
Of course. Gotcha.
So I'm probably really biased towards people needing to take work a little less seriously. I'm not saying you should suck at work. I'm not saying you should slack at work, but it's almost like people would rather hire someone who isn't good but will work more. Like they'd rather hire the person who beats them in the morning and leaves after them at night, but that person is actually not really very good at their job. They're not efficient with their time.
Right.
They'd rather hire that person because they look like they're working hard.
Right.
They don't look hard enough for the person that says, like, I'm coming in at 9:30, I leave at 4. If I don't finish my work, please let me know. Like, if I'm doing a poor job, let me know that I'm doing a poor job. That's the person I would hire. Is the person that's confident enough in what they're doing and their ability to say, I can achieve this in this amount of time. The last 2 hours of my day, I'm twiddling my thumbs, doing nothing. Like, I don't need to be here.
Right.
That would be my sort of caution for someone if you're hiring or if you're getting into a job. Work smart. Don't work longer hours just because you think you have to.
Right. What's been the most gratifying, or like your favorite project you've worked on? Something that you felt like, oh, like I'm so happy I did that. I'm so happy how everything turned out. You're like super proud of that project.
I think the projects that are the most rewarding for me are the ones that are the most flexible, that have the least limitations, and this is going to sound ungrateful to clients, but the ones where clients have the least input.
Right.
So I'm not saying all clients have poor input or they over control. That's not true either. But there's something more rewarding about being able to take very few guidelines and basically put your fingerprint on it, versus someone saying these are all the restrictions you must work within, or someone who looks at work that you are happy with and goes, I want to move this there, move that there.
You just have more fun doing it.
Yeah, because it feels more rewarding to just have creative freedom on it. So TXG is one that was a lot like that. Their whole website, kind of a lot of the stuff I did in the first 6 months, very little, like if any kind of feedback. No, I shouldn't say feedback, yes, but it was all sort of just like, it's good, not change this, change that. Kind of
And
thing.
So for those who just don't know what TXG is, like, well, what's TXG?
So TXG being Tour Experience Golf, the fitting studio in Toronto, Ian Fraser and the guys there. So when I first met them, their business was very different at the time. Had less people, less people through the door. So
they're just ground up basically at that point.
They had only been open for about a year and a bit.
Right.
But that's a good example, just because working with someone like that who has hired you for your expertise and trusts you to do a better job than they would do, and doesn't interfere. So the problem is you do get situations where, yes, someone's hired you, yes, they are paying for their expertise, but somewhere they still think they know better, and they'll make tweaks at the end that you wouldn't advise.
I see.
So the way I've learned to manage that is you can't take it personally. You just have to say, in the end, it's their money, it's their business, it's up to you. And I just say, listen, this is what I would advise based on my experience and my abilities, but the final decision is obviously yours, right? So you can't let your ego get involved in it. You can't take it personally, because in the end, you have to put yourself in their shoes. What would you do? Would it be easy for you to trust someone to just take it over? Probably not. You might want to be like, oh, I kind of want you to change that color and stuff like that. It'd be tough to say, oh, okay, I trust you 100%. And I'm sure you see that in lessons. You get people who like say, Larry, whatever you say, I'll do. You get guys that go, oh, I'm not sure about
Of
that.
course.
And they'll ask you, they'll question you. But there's a line. There's a difference between clarifying
Right.
and questioning.
Of course.
Right? So, and I'm sure you develop the same ability where you go, okay, listen, you've hired me for my advice. If you knew better, you'd probably just do
For
it
sure.
yourself. Right?
For sure.
Right? So at times you have to have that. I've had that conversation with people. I say, like, I don't want to waste your time and your money. If you want to go a different direction or you don't believe what I'm doing is in your best interest, then that's fine.
Right.
But it's not worth paying me for my time if you're gonna want to go too far in a different direction.
Gotcha.
So projects like that, I'm not the best with my memory, but there's been a few others that I've worked with that have a similar mindset where they're just like, go for it kind of thing. And sometimes that's not possible. Like sometimes you work with someone who just doesn't have the authority to say you can go nuts. They have people above them. So it will depend. I'm not going to say every project should be like that because that's obviously not the case. Part of the reason I don't want to get to a point where an agency is so big is you start working with clients that are at that level, you go through like 10 people.
Right.
You create a 1-minute ad for a TV spot or something, it probably would take like a month to get approved. And by the time your work gets to the finished work, it looks hardly anything like it. Like I know someone in the editing industry, like video editing, and they can tell you pretty standard protocol is by the time it gets to what the client wants, it's very, very different. Like clients will sit and pick apart every little thing because there's so much money involved, so much stake involved. You've got shareholders, all this kind of stuff. So for me, I guess the amount of creative freedom that I enjoy, it doesn't exist beyond a certain level.
I see. That's
the
cool.
problem.
But it's great that you know what that is. And
Yeah. Well, I'm as aware of it as you can
Right,
be
of
without
course.
having actually been. I just know it through, I guess,
Right.
mostly through
You really
connections.
want to keep your living standards and quality of life.
So that's exactly, and there's probably parallels in other industries where someone could probably identify a line where they won't get the same kind of freedom. It's way easier for me to think in terms of like the design industry. But if you take anything, if you're your own boss, or let's say there's only one person or two people above you, or it's a smaller company, it's not necessarily a bad thing because there's probably a lot more flexibility there. But that might not suit your personality type. Some people prefer everything to be very regimented. So you have to kind of pick where you want to be based on your personality and how you like to work.
So if there's anything, the one last parting, I guess, advice for, budding entrepreneurs or people on the fence of, should I chase something that I love? Should I try to do something that I love? Or should I just settle for what I went to school for?
Yeah.
Let's say, like, what would that last piece of advice be?
So I think you would probably need to be at least a bit realistic about your living situation. So for me, I was lucky enough that when I quit my job, I retained my former employer as a client.
Right.
So it made my transition easier.
Right.
That being said, I did say to myself, if they say no, you're still quitting.
Of course.
So that's the difference. You'll never be in I shouldn't say never. You'll almost never be in a situation where you can leave your job, get into your own business immediately and be fine financially.
Right.
There's more than likely going to be a risk or a drop off in your income for a period of time until your business, if it's successful, allows you to be compensated the way you used to be. So you have to be comfortable with some risk. I think you can be smart about it. Like if you watch TV, they make it sound like you need to take out a $100,000 loan and mortgage your house and lose your wife and kids and like life's over. I just think that is not representative of how it actually goes. I think if you're smart enough about it, you can mitigate your risk. There's always risk. Like my day-to-day has risk in that I don't have the same job security, but if you ask anyone who works at a corporation, how much job security is really left?
Of course.
It's not much.
Of course.
You're not a tenured professor or something like that. You don't have much job security. So
right.
I
You're
think
a number at the end of the day.
to some degree, like your personal work culture could still be really good and you can be a valued employee, but you can be disposed of as your contract will say or terminated within 30 days or 60 days or whatever. So if I were to try to sum it up without going on and on, you have to be comfortable with some risk, but I think don't get scared off by people going like, oh, this is the biggest risk of your life. Like if you fail, you're screwed. Like
it's all a learning experience at the end of the day.
And everything happens more incrementally than people realize. It's not like I'm working full-time job. Tomorrow I'm unemployed and I started a business in my garage. It never actually goes like that. It only seems like that when you're thinking about it. But when you're experiencing it, it's like hours and this happened and then later that day this happened and the next week this happened. It's all very incremental. So it moves a lot slower than people expect. So don't get scared off by feeling like it's this knife line where this is just over and now I'm starting as an entrepreneur. It tends to happen a little bit more transitionally than people think. And you can take your time a little bit more than people think. And in the end, if you're going to wake up at night wondering what you could have done, then you need to at least give it a shot.
Of course. I think regret's probably the worst thing anyone can have.
It's tough to live with regret, I think. Everyone's experienced that. Don't screw over your family if you've got kids, if you've got a wife. Don't mortgage your house. Like, don't ruin what you have. But if you can manage the risk, if you can, say, take out a loan that you could repay if you were employed again, or you can manage it through savings, be smart about it, but also know that, yes, there is some risk. But don't get terrified by what you hear. It's like, oh, you need to be willing to lose everything to be an entrepreneur. Like, it's nonsense. Nonsense.
That's great. Thanks, Matt. So that was that's a really thoughtful conversation. I thought.
Yeah, it was good.
I learned a lot again. Heard a lot of things I haven't heard before. Hopefully that helps some of you guys. Any questions, leave in the comments below. Matt will try to comment. At least I'll relay the questions to Matt, and I'll try to relay that answer back to you guys. But yeah, thanks for watching. Any questions, just leave in the comments below, and we'll catch you guys next time. Thanks, guys.